Chapter 29, The Hank Williams Museum. You've probably heard the songs Hey Good Lookin', Your Cheatin' Heart, Jambalaya, I Saw the Light, and others by the legendary Hank Williams. Those are only several of the over 700 songs Hank wrote before his untimely death at age 29 on the side of a West Virginia highway in the early morning hours of New Year's Day in 1953 while on the way to a concert in Canton, Ohio. He was pronounced dead on January 1st, 1953 in Oak Hill, West Virginia. His driver, the late Charles Carr, who was only 18 at the time, pulled over to check on the singer as he slept in the back seat of his powder blue Cadillac. To his shock, Hank had passed away sometime during the previous 4 hours or so. The late singer was born in South Alabama and spent much of his young life in Montgomery. Although I was familiar with Hank Williams as a kid, my appreciation for his music didn't surface until I was of legal age. Hank had a way of putting basic human emotion that everyone could relate to into song. The music is simple. His songs contain 3 to 4 major chords at most, with a couple of minor chords occasionally showing up. But the words and emotion are what keeps his music relevant into the ages. On his birthday every year in September, the Hank Williams Museum in Montgomery, Alabama honors the great American singer and songwriter. Each New Year's Day, the museum also commemorates Hank's death with a wreath-laying ceremony at his gravesite. The event then moves to the museum for an afternoon of collard greens, black-eyed peas, along with various performers singing Hank Williams songs. For the last 8 years, I've had the pleasure of performing Hank's songs on New Year's Day at the museum, as well as at the annual memorial service at Hank's gravesite. For the first few years I attended, it was a great thrill for me to meet the late Mr. Carr, a successful Montgomery businessman, then in his 70s, who was driving for Hank that sad morning in 1953. It was also an honor for me to meet Braxton Shuford, a childhood friend of Hank's, a few years his senior, who until his passing at age 97 was still playing and singing. He is probably the person most responsible for Hank's unmistakable sound. Meeting both of these men was truly an honor and a moment that I will never forget. The Hank Williams Museum was founded by the late Cecil Jackson, whose story about how it happened was very interesting. When Cecil was only 7 years old, he was standing nearby when Hank arrived for a performance at a local school building. When Hank noticed the youngster, he asked him if he would like a Coca-Cola and tossed him a dime. Cecil would forever proudly exclaim, "I was Hankin' ever since." I was very moved when Cecil personally told me that story. Once again, as I've stated many times throughout this book, it was the music that made it all happen. The Hank Williams Museum has grown from Cecil Jackson's dream to a wonderful pilgrimage destination for people from all over the world. Cecil Jackson's daughter, Beth, with the help of her husband, Jeff Petty, currently operate the museum. The website is thehankwilliamsmuseum.net. It is satisfying to know that Hank Williams' Alabama hometown has established annual ceremonial activities to remember its legendary native son. Hank fans from around the world deeply appreciate that his sincere and heartfelt tributes are regularly held at the Hank Williams gravesite on the anniversary of his death each year.